Habari ya asubuhi, good morning, and for those who are in Kenya, we say good afternoon. Welcome to a very interesting conversation once again. Remember, in my last video, I said we'll be engaging in this conversation every weekend. Why weekend anyway? It's because I don't want to get into my employer's time. So for those who are new to my channel, my name is Okoth. And this week, when I asked about some of the areas you wanted us to talk about, was that you talked about mental health. And coincidentally, two things happened in Kenya this week that even made me yearn to talk about this topic more. One of the topics is that it's all about mental health, suicide, depression, and the other one was about the GBV, the gender-based violence. And today we want to engage in this interesting conversation. Try to dig deep to find out exactly what is happening. And one of the things that I believe in, or some people will call it my mantra, is that I've always believed that there's nobody who has it all. And when you define success, for me, success is relative. What is your standard measure of success? Some people are termed as people who cannot undergo depression. They can never have a mental issue. They can never have suicidal thoughts just because according to the society, they have it all. I believe nobody has it all. And you might be very successful in one aspect, but on the other aspect, you have failed. And the failure is what basically throws us out and takes us to the deep end of our life. Someone will look at you and say, you know what, when I look at Cecilia or I look at some so and so, I think they're very successful. The question is, successful on what? What am I successful on? Remember, life has different aspects. There is the career success. We still have family. And society is not even making it better for us because the society has put a standard measure on how you are supposed to behave or what the people expect you to be. And most of the time, we succumb to this. When someone who is considered to be at a lower cadre goes through depression, sometimes they don't even understand if that is depression. Something happens to them, nobody talks about it. But when someone who is, according to the society again, is very successful, the people will jump into it and the first thing they'll ask is, why didn't you talk about it? One of the questions I normally ask, talk about what? And talk about it with who? Because today you will say, I spend most of my time at work. I'm going to share this with my colleagues at work. And in this conversation, before you know it, the entire organization knows what is happening. And for me, somebody who is already depressed and then hears that what we talked about is already out in the open, it's not really helping the whole situation. So anybody can succumb to depression. Anybody can have a mental health issue. And for us who are human resource practitioners, one of the things that I also believe in is that I can be in the most successful organization. This is an organization that is known worldwide. This is an organization that has penetrated the market. This is an organization that does not even need to do marketing because on its own, it's already a brand. But then the question is, how is the mental state of these people that are working for this particular organization? And I believe the mental health of the people working here is the greatest thing that anybody else who is in my practice should look out for. And when society puts expectation on us, I believe Cecilia should be this person. And then unfortunately you realize she's not that person. So you put your expectation of me on me, and basically, or maybe that is not what I want, or that is not the direction I am taking. Then when I realize that the society put my expectation on A and I'm actually moving towards B, then at the end of the day, I may or may not succumb to depression. I may look at myself in terms of a failure. And one of the trends that are coming out that is really increasing in number is this aspect of family. Human beings are social beings. And the society expects you to be very perfect, particularly at a particular age. You said, you know what, you've reached this particular age, so the society expects you to have gotten married or not, or had kids, and here you are, you tried. I'm saying you tried, got married, had kids, and then you realize this whole marriage thing is not working. But then the society is here as a watchdog saying you cannot whatsoever afford to divorce or afford to part ways. And that is where hell breaks loose. Because you feel you cannot continue with this, but at the same time, the society is saying, you know what, we expect you. Because if we look at you and we realize you are not into this marriage setup, so according to us, you're not successful. And according to us, you're not a role model. So however learned you may be, or however successful you may be in terms of your career, but you are not a family-oriented person, then for us, you're not successful. And forget about the society expectation. Even individually as a person, you know, all of us long for, all of us wish that we had this family, beautiful family. And some of us believe we cannot live without our children. And so this is an individual who realized the family has lost the family, the children are gone, they are left on their own, loneliness creeps in. Trust me, no one is too strong to hold on to that. And when we undergo the mental, we have a breakdown in our mental state of health, definitely the productivity goes down. But then we don't talk about work at this particular point. Are we in a space where we can look at it like, at the end of the day, there'll be a silver lining? Do we look at it that I am undergoing this phase, but I believe that after some time, I am going to come out of it? Have we reached a level whereby we are in a state of helplessness? We have lost hope in whatever we are doing. And then the first thing, because there are different forces that come into play, and the first thing we always look at in terms of quick fix. And what is the quick fix? Quick fix is, let me just end it. But at times we forget, and I always term it as a very selfish move, because it's not about us. It's about the people that are around us. This move that I'm going to make, how is it going to affect the people that look up to me? Because however hopeless or helpless you may be, there is somebody out there who basically looks up to you. And that is one of the things that should always guide you. And say, okay, as much as I want to make this move, how is this move going to affect people who look up to me? How is this move going to affect the people who care about me? How is this move going to affect the people who really love me? You may be gone, you've taken that, you've said, let me end it. But the next thing is, what is the aftermath? And no one, remember, I've said no one. I will never say someone who has committed suicide to be a coward, no. But for them, that was the right decision they could think of, or what they could take at that particular point. But what has happened. I am now addressing those people who might be in that state, and they are still having that feeling that the best thing to do is to end it all. Trust me, there is always hope. And when you're just about to give up, that is when you get a solution. It is not wrong to start all over again. For those who are spiritual, for those who believe in God, we know that we have a God of second chances. And trust me, sometimes the second chances are even better. You know. So depression is real. Suicide is real. And everybody right now, our conversation is around mental health. Check onto the people that you love. Do not say, I wish she talked to me. I wish she reached out. We have always reached out. People have always reached out. How many people even pick their calls? And I look at it in terms of, sometimes I always refer to it in terms of employment. And I joke when I talk to my team and I tell them, you know what? Today, if you lose your job, your phone will stop ringing. Your colleagues will only call for a maximum of a month. You know, and then from there you are left on your own. I remember the period of COVID. It was bad. For those who know me personally, it was a very rough season for me. And I want to thank my family because they were there. They stood by me. And here is a case where COVID hits. There is this young child whom you've just had. Things are not working out. There is no job. And that is for those who follow me on Facebook. That is the time I started doing my writings. But I will tell you that it was at my lowest. It was at my lowest. And even something as little as sleep, even that one basically leaves you because you cannot sleep. Here is a young mother who is breastfeeding, just gave birth in the month of when COVID hit Kenya so badly. That was around April, May, March, thereabout. And you've just lost your job. And you have a breastfeeding child who expects you to be there for him. And for those who know, mentally, if you're not ready, even breastfeeding that child becomes a problem. So you feel like you've lost it all. You even questioned why this child had to come at this particular time. But then the next thing that hits you is that, what is it that I can do that can make me come out of this situation? I would have either just sat and let everything sleep or make the best out of the situation. And that is where we normally say the hidden talent comes into play. I never knew I would write, and then I started writing. So some of the ideas that we have comes when we are at our best place, and some of the ideas that we have come when we are at our worst place. Even at your lowest, you can generate an idea. So never look at it in terms of, I think this is the end. There are quite a number of things that can play out. I've just mentioned about finances, I've mentioned about family, and friends. God, they look for the escape route. I normally say, when you're financially not okay and then everybody has taken the nearest escape route. Finances are no longer there. You are really struggling to make ends meet. But then look at it in terms of a phase and say, in the next 3 months, let me give yourself a timeline. Say in the next 2-3 months, I'm gonna get better. It's gonna get better, So never ever say, I think, because for one, again, for those who are spiritual, you never gave yourself life. Someone else gave you that life, and you don't have the power to just end it. So we can look at it in various fashions. There's the family, there's the finances. You've realized your career is done. There are people who are out of work for years. I think I'm one of them. But still, they manage to have what we call a comeback. During that time, I had a chance to also interact with this monster, and I call it a monster because I'd never had a chance to interact with cancer. And now cancer comes in, not me, I'm not infected. You can either be infected or affected. So I was affected, meaning there's somebody who had it. And you sit down and ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? What else am I expecting? No job, young child, cancer, no finances, no savings, and in Kenya, honestly, it is hard to save. So that was the time that you will say, I just want to end it. I can't continue anymore. Your family is there to support you. And thank you guys for that. But still you cannot see when this is ending. So what is the bottom line, the parting shot, is that it will always get better. It will always get better. We don't know the time. We don't know who is going to make it better for you, but it will always get better. So when we talk about depression, I want to attach it to a story that has also been trending. This is, I'm going to mention name because it's all over social media. This great rapper, for those who know Madrax, and for those who are born in the 80s and 90s, like some of us, we know him, is in Gengeton, and a great musician out there. So this week the wife comes on board and says, I've just had enough of this. I can't do this anymore. It's been 10 years this guy has been hitting me like a burukenge. You know what that means? So we see evidence, we see photos, we see medical reports, and again, the society is too quick to jump into the conversation. And as we know, the woman is supposed to be the one making the home. So we look at this medical report that has been put out there and we realize it's 2021. And the next question we're asking ourselves is, why did you have to wait for 4 years? For those who are mothers like myself, you know it is quite hard, especially when children are involved. And when you get into the act of selflessness, you will realize that it's not always about you. The impact this is going to cause on the children is what will bring trauma to these children. Then there's always the fear of the unknown. When I leave, what happens? Society does not want to know. The society is very keen on the product. Nobody wants to get into the process. And that has always been one thing that I believe in. That nobody looks at the process. Everybody looks at the product. When someone, we call it, for those who are into video, whatever, coverage, we call it the BTS, the behind the scene. And most of the time our lives, what happens behind the scene is not anything interesting. But the society is not keen on it. The society just wants to see the very nice picture we portray on social media. That great family. So what happens when I'm beaten? I go cover up with my makeup and tomorrow wake up very strong, say hi, how is everybody? We have a great family here, but deep down I am dying. This whole scenario, this whole situation is killing me. And then we see Matra coming up and saying, you know what? Denying the allegation and saying the picture that were actually portrayed on social media happened way back. And is excited, if that is a word, that you know what? I came out of a toxic relationship. I will never advocate for someone to be in a toxic marriage or a toxic relationship, because for me it's never physical. It's all about draining you mentally. And for me, the most important, just like when I started this conversation, I said, our mental state of health is everything. You can fast for so many days without eating, but you'll still be okay. But when you are not mentally okay, then everything goes off. Even taking care of those children, you cannot. These children, you think you're holding on to them to give them this wonderful family. You cannot. And it's always good to get feedback, because sometimes when we are in that particular state, and when I say we, it means the entire society, all of us, because I said anybody can have a mental state of health. At times, the victim, or most of the time, the victim does not recognize the damage. It's until you come out of the situation and then somebody just plays it out for you, is when you realize, God, was it that bad? So the victim, the person affected, does not know what is happening around them. They are making decisions when they are not in their right state of mind. But I always say it is never too late. For those who are spiritual, again, they say God's time is the best. When you made that decision, that was the time the decision ought to have been made. But some of us stay into it until we walk out of it in a coffin. For me, I believe nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth staying when it is not working. You can stay there for the sake of the children, but those children will not get the best out of you because you're not okay mentally. You trust me, you go to work, your productivity goes completely down, because I am a strong believer that I cannot split my personality and behave differently at work and behave differently at home. Work affects my home and home affects my work. When I am not okay at work, trust me, I'll bring it at home, and the people who will suffer is my family. When I am not okay in the family, my productivity at work is going to go down, because I am one and the same person So when you come to me and you say, you know what, when you reach the gate, Cecilia, leave all your problems at the gate. God, it can't work. I am the same person. So when I am at peace at home and I am at peace at work, trust me, my productivity, you'll be able to tell things are right. So as you hold on to that rope and saying, I'm still holding on to this rope, I don't want to let it go. Know that the children who are looking up to you are also not okay. And in this generation, I don't know, they're called generation, I don't know, Gen Z, they are very keen on picking the small signs in our family setups. And in the process of you trying to hold on to this, or in the process of looking at see if everything is okay, you are going to lose your children. And one day, they will come back and tell you, you know, Mom, were it not for you behaving like A, B, and C, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And most of us suffer from what we call the childhood trauma. You know, you've never basically experienced what it feels like to be heard by your parent. And for those who are brought up in the 80s, going backwards, you know that the parents were always right. You could not afford to challenge your parent. You had no voice. But nowadays, our children will just come up and say, you know what, Mom, I think there you're wrong. How dare you talk to your mother like that? In the 80s backwards, or maybe 90s. Even if they were wrong, they will never even apologize. But these days we are told, you know what, if I am wrong, hey, Mom, come on. Okay, fine. I think though you make it with some tone that, you're acknowledging, but not really. Okay, fine, Mom, I did it, fine. Okay, sorry then. It ends there. But I don't think our parents ever said sorry. No. So in this generation, they will engage you into a conversation. And you will never plant something they don't want. I remember my girl, I was asking her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then I started bringing my ideas on board and say, I thought this will work for you. She said, what, Mom? What is going to work for me? Is it going to work for me or it is going to work for you? God, I said, okay. And then the challenge is, if you really wanted that career that you want your child to have, why couldn't you have it yourself? So this is a very, I don't want to say liberal kind of society, that is a generation that is coming up. But these guys, they want this kind of, in other terms we call them the laissez-faire kind of generation. They just do what they want and you can do nothing about it. So as parents, the best thing we can do, so that even raising these children can be the cause of your mental health. You can raise a child with all the expectations, and looking at your child, you say, I know my child will end up to be this particular person, only to realize they are not whom you thought they would be. And then you slip into stress, you slip into depression, and you lose it all. And we know that some of these parents treat their children based on success. They will always want to relate to the most successful child. And as parents, that is where we go wrong. Have you thought of that child who is not successful? What are you doing to this particular child? Do you know the damage you're causing to this child? When they go home over holidays, for us Africans, we like going home. These children are never engaged in conversation. The child who is successful is the one who is left to make decisions, regardless of whether they are old or not. As parents, that point we are losing it completely. And there's a post that I did on Facebook sometimes, I think 2-3 months back. And I said, everybody in the family contributes something in that family. You might be doing very well, you have lots of money. You are contributing money. Fine, we appreciate that. But this other child who brings nothing to the family, And for me, I am a strong believer in family unity. That child is still contributing something to the family. Because trust me, if you lose that child today, most of us or all of us are going to weep in tears and say, I wish so-and-so was still alive. So this is directed to the parents who have quite a number means a child more than one, and they treat their children based on their success. And now all of a sudden, this child who is doing very well is literally being idolized, is being worshipped in this family because they are contributing to the family more than the other children. Spiritually, we say the Lord or the God that gave you is the same God that denied the other person. Tables can be turned. Life is unpredictable. The person who doesn't have today might have it all tomorrow. And the person who doesn't have might get it. What changes? Will your narrative change because their status have changed? Parents, let us treat all our children equally, regardless of how successful they are. Let us listen to our children. For me, there is no idea that is not worth listening to. And everybody you meet must always leave an impact into your life. Some are lessons, others they're going to. Not everybody is there to make a financial impact into your life. There are people I've met, and honestly, I don't drink, but I meet people who interact with the bottle, and I love being in their company because these guys have great ideas. They might be hallucinating. At times they hallucinate and they say they have had a conversation with a very prominent person. So sit down with them and listen to that conversation they've had with this person. Trust me, you're going to get an idea out of it. And these are guys who know what is supposed to be done in the society. And these are people who genuinely and honestly will love you. I am not saying you start drinking, no. But these guys, you sit down with them and you listen to the conversation, you will have a great time with them. So once in a while, we engage in such conversations. They know it all. They know where the society is moving. They will even predict what is coming up in the next 30 years. Because they say the bottle makes them focus on the future. I don't know how practical this is. But I listen to them. So in every family, you will always find that one, people call them the black sheep, but they're not, And sometimes you may not understand what they're going through for them to go back to the bottle. I call it the bottle. Because when it comes to depression, how we tackle it is different. Other people will think the suicide way. Others will get into alcoholism. Others, we also know they are stress eaters. Others will add weight and just be eating anything, But the society is so quick in defining the expected standard of measure. I expect you to look like this. I expect you to behave like this. I expect you to be like this. We cannot be like that. You cannot confine someone, So if it is not worth living, do not live it. And that is why I say there is no one who can come to me and tell me, you know what Cecilia says, that so-and-so is successful. Because nobody has ever had it all. You are successful. Okay, what is the standard measure? Is it career? Is it finances? Is it family? Is it that you went to the moon and came back? What are you successful about? And I think that marks the end of our conversation. Kindly put your suggestions and let me know what you think about this and even some of the proposals you have about our next topic. And until next time, adios.